Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Well-Appointed Mystic. My name is Anna, and today I thought I would talk a little bit about Llewellyn's various almanacs. These are old. I did not buy a set this year. I just sort of missed the window, and so I pulled these out because I was debating whether or not to purchase any of these for 2025. I know, isn't it crazy that we're already talking about 2025? And so I pulled these back out because I kind of wanted to go back through because having all 5 of these was a bit ridiculous. But when I had purchased these in 2023, I had kind of bought them in the middle of the year when Llewellyn had their sale. So I basically got each of these for at least half off, if not more. So, but I purchased all of them because I wanted to know what the differences were and which one, if any of these, would be advantageous for the kind of magical work, witchy work, tarot work that I do. And so I thought I would go through, and these aren't all of the possible almanac yearly books that Llewellyn produces. I do know that there's one that's a spell a day book that I did not get, and there may be 1 or 2 others. So while this isn't a complete review, this will at least give you an idea, because there isn't I didn't find a ton of information when I was purchasing these of anyone else doing a video like this. So I thought maybe if I do one, then there would be something out there for other people to refer to. So what we have here, starting from the top of the pile, is the Astrological Pocket Planner, then the Sabbath Almanac, the Witch's Companion, the Magical Almanac, and the Herbal Almanac. So I will just flip through these quickly just to give you an idea and sort of where I landed with these. Obviously, this is the smallest of the books. It is the Pocket Planner. This one focuses most specifically on astrological information. So for, I don't even think, there's a little bit of information at the beginning about like moon void, of course, and Mercury retrogrades. And then how to use the Pocket Planner, a symbol key, time zone info, and so forth, because I think all of the time zones shown are Eastern Standard, so, or Eastern Daylight, I suspect. So anyway, this planner has like kind of all of the astrological information, moon void, of course, when a moon enters a specific sign, when a Mercury retrograde occurs. It does tell you here like how long the retrograde will last. Full moons, what time they are, I think in Eastern and Pacific times. Just this various information. For me, what I discovered was that this was a lot of information. You know, I wrote in here for, where do I live? Central time zone, what the time was for the new moon. So I must have gotten this earlier than I thought I did. But it goes that way through all the various, and I used it a little bit in 2023, just back and forth. But it's probably more information than I was really utilizing. I'm kind of more of a full moon, new moon, voids of like a Mercury retrograde, and that's about it. Everything else is just like, it was too much for me to keep up with. And then in the back is this really detailed information about when it's, you know, trine and like all those kinds of things, that is like way more astrological information than I would know what to do with. Like this, like I don't even know what to do with this chart. So it was a lot of information. Honestly, I think that for most people, I think most of the other Llewellyn's calendars or planners or date books will include some of this information, probably about as much as what most people use. So this was a bit extensive, although the price for it is about $10 US. It may be a little bit more expensive this year, but really not crazy. So that was the astrological guide. The sabbats And part of what led me to start doing this video now is that the Sabbath Almanac starts with Samhain every year. So if I want to purchase the Sabbath Almanac for 2024 into 2025, I will probably want to pick it up sooner rather than later so that I kind of can use the whole thing. This book, as the title suggests, is broken into each of the sort of witches' holidays, the pagan holidays, and includes basically articles. I mean, for lack of a better word, I would call this sort of like a large-scale magazine for the year. So honestly, like, I could go back and reuse this book because the information isn't entirely specific to, I mean, it does have specific dates for when, like some, you know, moon sign, things like that were occurring in 2022. But a lot of the information is sort of general, like this is a celebration of death and decay, respecting death, Day of the Dead cemeteries, exploring decay. Here's, this one has, I think, more specific, the cosmic sway had more specific information about the specific, like, where the moon was and other astrological things that were going on at the time. But then there's things like tales and traditions. So there's just like a lot of like articles. Here's a, you know, a recipe for chicken and potatoes, bread pudding, and maple glazed carrots. So like, you know, a meal prep kind of article. Crafts. Apparently, did I get ink all over this? Who knows? But like a craft project, it really does look like I kind of went crazy. Color magic, a ritual specifically honoring compost, specifically related to Samhain. So each year, I think there are different articles. There's probably going to always be one that talks specifically about the astrological significance of a specific holiday, a craft project, a ritual, because it looks like that's how this whole thing went. There's like a little, like an article, a little story about something related to the holiday. The cosmic sway again appears at Yule, so it talks about like what is going on astrologically around that time. Tales and traditions, feasts and treats, craft project. So it seems pretty consistent for each holiday. There's a craft, a food related article, something about the tradition, a general article, and an astrological article. So honestly, a lot of this could be reused year after year. You could save the articles that were relevant to you, or keep a collection of these, because obviously you would develop quite a collection of sort of rituals and activities and things to do at each holiday. So if you are interested in doing more or focusing more on specific holiday activities around the Witch's Wheel of the Year, then this one might be appealing. But they are all Sabbath related rather than sort of everyday related. So the next one that I have is the Witch's Companion. And this one, honest to gosh, to me feels just like a magazine is really the best description that I can give it. It is just a series of articles. Like, it starts with community forum, provocative opinions on contemporary topics. This particular volume had Flying Under the Radar, How to Disguise Your Interest in the Craft. There's a Laura Tempest Zakroff article about the ethical witch and the noble quest for knowledge, extremist groups and paganism. So these are just really articles. Then there's another section that's all magical self-care, which includes things like essential self-care rituals for sensitive people. So there's witchcraft essentials, there's witchy living, and then in the very back is a lunar calendar. And I can flip to that. So these are just articles, practices. This one I think I enjoyed like the most, because it was just, I put this, you know, on the bedside table, and when I wanted just a small, you know, like a short little article to read before bed or something, I would open this, flip through, and read an article or two. I joke that one of these ended up in my bathroom and became my bathroom reader. So again, just short little articles. Honestly, you could pick up an old copy, you know, like a 2022, 2023 on sale, and read it throughout the year as well, as I don't feel like, short of the calendar in the back, that there's anything that's specifically related to the particular year. There's some great little illustrations in here too. They're quite lovely. But anyway, so in the back is a calendar, and this is probably about as much, I mean, it's very similar to the information that was included in the astrological date book, but just a little bit more brief, a little shorter. It's just, you know, a 2-page for the month and gives you a quick overview. I think that knowing that there is an astrological calendar in the back of the Witch's Companion means I really don't need the astrological date book in the future. I could just buy the new edition of the Witch's Companion, and that would give me enough of the astrological information, along with lots of fun things to read. Like here's a films that belong in your witchy library, which, you know, would be a fun article to read if you were looking for, you know, something to watch on a Friday night. I've never heard of the Skeleton Key. Takes place in New Orleans. Very cool. So anyway, that is the Witch's Companion. I would basically classify this as a lengthy magazine. The price on this edition was $14 US, $20 Canada. So it's probably going to be quite similar. I would expect it somewhere between, what did I say? 14 is $16. I can't imagine it would be much more expensive than that. So this one is one that I really like. The sabbats I do like. I don't know. I'm pretty lackadaisical about my my Sabbath rituals, so I feel like it would be what's the word I'm looking for? Like very hopeful of me to think that I would go through and read all of the Sabbath activities and, you know, cook and make a craft and do a ritual for all of the Sabbats. Like that, it's wishful thinking on my part. I think the Witch's Companion is probably a better option. So this is the Magical Almanac, and this is Practical Magic for Everyday Living. This walks a fine line. I think it's very similar to the Witch's Companion. It is divided up into chapters that include, again, it's all articles, like short articles, but it's divided into earth magic, air magic, fire magic, and water magic. And then there's coloring, like a few coloring pages in the back. But again, I think this was the one that ended up in my bathroom a couple years ago. But it has just more articles. And again, I think that this is another one that you could pick up last year's edition, one from 5 years ago, because very few of the specific articles are related to a particular year. I really enjoyed, in this one, there was an article in here about, here's one about making a besom, making a purifying wand. So it's like making your own magic. Let's see, where was it? There's making talismans and amulets, Afro-Caribbean witchcraft. Oh, this one was really cool. It was an article about like using coins in magic, particularly finding like an old buffalo nickel, a wheat penny, or a mercury dime. And the article goes into more detail about any of the symbolism or magic that could be associated with those coins. But I do think that, like any coin that holds special significance to you, it could be a lucky quarter that you found on the ground. It could be, your grandpa's wheat penny, something like that, included in your magical kit. Could be the coin that you use for divination for those yes/no answers, that kind of thing. But yeah, so this one I really enjoyed. There was something in here about house blessings that I found. I mean, this one had the witch's alphabet. But there was something here about like giving your home a name, and oh, here it is. It was the very beginning, the animist house. So it was just a really fun. It's talking about giving your home a name, and I've been listening to a podcast lately where they were talking about hygge magic, hygge witchcraft, and I think part of making a cozy home, a magical home, would be to make sure that your house has a name. So anyway, so the Magical Almanac, it goes all the way through various earth, air, fire, and water magic. And again, just short articles. I enjoyed it because it was a little bit of things that maybe I wouldn't have necessarily bought an entire book on, like fire dance magic. I don't know that I would have bought a book about dance magic, but having it here was just a good primer, a little taste to see if that is something that I would like to investigate further. This also has a calendar in the middle that is much less specific. It just says, like, you know, April 10th, waning moon, moon phase third quarter, moon sign, and then has an incense and color association. I'm not quite sure how those are supposed to be used. I really didn't pay any attention to this calendar in the middle. I was looking to see if I guess it just starts on this page. So I suspect that maybe, I don't know if they have, no, there's contributors in the back. I wondered if they'd had any details about the information. Doesn't look like it about that calendar. Nope. So I think the Magical Almanac and the Witch's Companion are quite similar. And so I would suggest that if you are trying to decide between these two books, you might look to see which authors are have included articles. So in some cases, maybe there is a particular author who you really like. So like just skimming the list here, if there are any, like Sasha Graham did an article. I think that's the only name I recognize right out of the gate, although I may have read some articles. And then this one, like Laura Tempest Sakharov, I really like. I'm looking to see if there's anybody else that I recognized right off of the bat. Deborah Blake. So each one had a couple people that I recognize, you know, like had a one or two people that I recognized. So it really just kind of depends. I think since this one is divided by earth, air, fire, and magic, or earth, air, fire, and water magic, this may, like if you have a particular penchant for a certain type of magical practice, this one might be better. This one seems to be more of a general, you know, because it has a witchcraft essentials, witchy living, magical self-care. And I don't know if the chapters in each one are similar or if they will be different in a new volume. So that's another thing to look at when you're looking at the descriptions of these. So these two, very, very similar. I enjoyed both of these, and honestly, the longer I sit here, the more I'm like, well, okay, so maybe I'll get the Witch's Companion and the Magical Almanac and the Sabbats. So really, I've only ruled out at this point the astrological date book, as it's a little more complex. So finally, the last book is the Herbal Almanac, and this one is another one that is just a series of articles, and maybe yes, in the back of this one, there is some planting information, moon signs and phases, gardening by the moon. But yeah, so kind of there's your clues is just like the sign and the moon phase for each day of the year. But again, the rest of the book is mostly about gardening and different herbs and flowers. It goes into detail about the U.S. plant hardiness zones for certain things. So like here's this whole section back here are all plant profiles. So if you're wanting to harvest or grow things like this one has mustard, bay, summer savory, elderberry, some other different things. So if there's things that you're, oh, here's a companion planting guide. So this is definitely like, if you are not a gardener or interested, like then there's this little section in the back of like what you want to do as you're planning your garden. So if you're not a gardener or someone who's into herbs and planting, this is probably not for you. The front section has more like the craft of nettle cordage, which is, I think, a little esoteric for me. But yeah, so it's like DIY and crafts. And then there's the rest of this is just various articles about herbal, you know, uses for herbs for beauty. Let's see what else was in here. You know, ways to treat achy feet. There's some food stuff in here. No cook herby marinades, spreads, and sauces. So there's some recipes. So that's this whole section is like more for cooking. The thing with books like this that have cooking is like this is all bone stock. I'm a vegan, so a lot of this book was sort of irrelevant to me because a lot of the recipes were things that I was not going to make. I'm not going to make velouté sauce with fish stock and unsalted butter. Not me, no thank you. But yeah, so again, if you're interested in some of just the general, like the very front section just kind of had information on some various plants. Like here's a whole section on Victorian houseplants. So there were a few things in here that I enjoyed, but for the most part, this one was not for me. I am not a gardener, so to speak. I was thinking that it would have more like kind of herbal magic, you know, like from that standpoint, I can be a bit of a kitchen witch. I like to you know, go in my herb cabinet and grind up some herbs and sprinkle them around, or creating essential oil sprays, that kind of thing. But I don't garden greatly. The Victorian houseplants was probably the most fascinating thing, but I like things that are old. So anyway, this is what I've got in the Llewellyn book stash, the sort of almanacs, date books, and I'm sure there are ones that I didn't pick up, but I felt excessive buying 5 of them in the first place. I think moving forward, I might pick up 2 out of 3 of these. So I'll either get the Witch's Companion or the Magical Almanac. And then I might get the Sabbats Almanac as well. It just depends on how much cash I have. So anyway, I realized that these are older editions, but I thought that this would at least give you an idea of what each of these was and how they differed, because honestly, I didn't know until I bought them, and I don't want to put someone else in the position where they have to buy 5 volumes to discover that like one of them is all about gardening, which is not a thing that you do, or you know, one is all about really is about like preparing for sabbats, which you may or may not be involved in. So yeah, I hope this helped. It definitely helped me to sort of go through these, and I hope seeing them helps you to sort of virtually go through them and decide. I'd be curious if you purchase these every year, or if these are things that you're into, or if you might consider purchasing one of these now that you know what's inside of them. So anyway, thanks so much for watching my video, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.